Thank you for joining me. I'm sure there are other better um, sessions going on, so you've chosen to be here. And so to start with, thank you to all for joining me here. I come from the Elliott Carney School, so thank you comes first on the screen, um, then the material that I'm going to present. But yeah, I think my presentation for the day is on presuppositions. Now, this is a presentation I did a while back in another conference, but at that time, the audience was full of students who were learning about what do you call it, different modalities of counseling and what SF is all about. So, but today I am absolutely cognizant of the fact that I'm among veterans here. Of I'm guessing practiced SF more than me. So this is a presentation of my thoughts about what presupposition is and how we use it in our with our clients in our client sessions, and but not necessarily just client sessions, but in our daily life, if you will, right? Because as individuals, we are the biggest suppressors of our own skills and talents, and others are biggest what do you call proponents of our skills, who tell us that, hey, you have this, you've got this covered. So they are probably our friends and family and colleagues are the ones who actually presuppose our skills and talents and tell us that you've got something. And we do it in a different way. We do it in the form of questions, right? So the I'm by nature, by profession, I'm a salesperson. I've been in the sales field for 20 plus years. So pardon me if there is a lot of sales slang or sales style that I come with. So the agenda for the presentation is about what presupposition is, types of presupposition, its benefits, and how it helps in co-constructing. So that's where the power of presupposition is, and in co-constructing client description of what they are looking for, right? What the change, the transformation that they are looking for in their life as a result of coming into the counseling room. So I found this to be easier to explain what presupposition is by putting out that 5 W's and 1 H. Typically, when we analyze, right, analyze what a situation is, what a problem is, or where we are going with something, we ask ourselves or we ask others. In our case, we ask clients, and it is around whatever we ask the client. At the end, culminates into the 5 W's and 1 H. So when I put together this presentation, I was thinking, I thought on those lines, like what is presupposition, right? And the biggest example, the best and the first example of presupposition is the first question that we ask in a session: what are your best hopes from our talking? Or as we saw, a very easy variation that Steve used, like, you came here today, if you knew that this was useful, how would you know? The presupposition being that a client has come in with their best hopes, or at least knowing what they want, right? They might not readily be able to articulate it, but it still is there, and we are presupposing that it is present there. Now, as part of my presentation, if you have thoughts, comments, I do not want this to be like a monologue. So you have thoughts, you want to refute, have a discussion, please feel free to go ahead, ask me questions or put in your thoughts so that we make this more interactive for the next 1 hour. I don't want to make it sound like boring. So what is presupposition? It's a linguistic tool. We all know that SF the SF modality itself is a very linguistic tool, because language is what creates reality. So presupposition as a linguistic tool that it presumes. Later in the part, you will see the word graceful judgment. So it presumes that the client or whoever we come in contact with, whoever we want to talk, who wants to talk to us, have the resource and trait and belief that they have a successful past and they know what they want, and they desire a future that aligns with their value system uh, and the transformation that they are looking for, right? And how is presupposition used, right? It's the strength. It is, again, it we gracefully assume, if as human beings we want to judge, then we might as well judge people by their best days, by their best version, right? And what they have succeeded at, what they have achieved, their strengths, their resilience. And so one of most common questions we ask, presuming a presupposition, is how would you start noticing your desired outcome? Yes, once we elicit the best hopes, we ask, like, how would you start noticing it, right? And what difference does it make? We are presuming, we are presupposing that the desired outcome would make a difference. Sure, Beverly, thank you. So that is how presupposition is used with the language of the client, right? It could be direct use of client language. Now, you will see in types of presupposition that there are different types of presupposition of and how it is used. So it could be from their language or something that we hypothesize, but we are still using presupposition. And why do we use it? Obviously, because that helps us co-construct the client conversation, right? Presupposition, we use it so that it gives us the leeway to co-construct, work with the client while letting them be the expert of their life and we remaining the expert of the process. It gives us the opportunity to let clients talk about what they want, and get them to talk about their strengths and resources that many times in difficult times they tend to forget that they have already achieved things that they are today probably finding it difficult to achieve. So one of the questions that I like is, like, how do you know that you can sustain the changes you have made? Which means that is, again, the reason why we use presuppositions, right? And to make the client realize that they have it in them. Now, I believe as a process, after this presentation, I'll be sharing this deck, and whoever would like to, I'll also share the recording. Obviously, I'll send it to Beverly and Matt. So I'll share this deck with the organizers. So I'm not going to really walk through every slide here, but I think it would be a better idea to have a conversation or a discussion about what presupposition is, what you think presupposition is, how you use it, and we could take it. I mean, take the conversation deep. Now, who uses it? Obviously, it is the therapist. It is the SF clinician who uses it in the session, right? And it helps the therapist to be open to the possibilities that the client comes in with. Probably are ignorant, probably do not know how to articulate it, but still have a lot of opportunities, have the possibilities, and it is the job of the clinician, and it presuppositions keeps the clinician in what you call in line with what the client is looking for. And we use presuppositions across the session, right? In all the different questions that we ask. Now, there's the type of any questions till now have I already put you guys to sleep, or are there any questions, thoughts, comments till now, or that you'd like to throw at me? Mm, looks like I'm doing a good job. Okay. Okay, great. So now, I'm sorry.
I might say something. Sorry, Vinay.
Yes, yes, Miriam.
Just a comment that listening to you, that it's I completely agree that it's the clinician's responsibility to be aware of how they handle I can't even say it, presuppositions. But that I guess it's used in language all the time, right? So the clients will bring their own presuppositions into the session as well, and that you can, I guess, in therapy, we can also be, not necessarily accept the client's presuppositions that they bring, but also sort of open up the possibility that there might be other ways of looking at things, and that when we think that would be helpful for them.
Yes, especially I believe, if I'm getting you right, Miriam, especially when the client thinks something negative about them, something that they cannot, or when they say, oh, that is not something I can do, but they probably have done it in their life. So we do not take that presupposition, that
no
cynical, for I do not like to use the word negative, but cynical way of themselves looking at themselves. We do not take that at face value, but we put it back at them and ask a question that presupposes their strength, their resilience, their resources that they have used in the past. So turn that presupposition that they have about themselves and turn it in a way that they are able to look at the optimistic side of life, and how they have already achieved something that they probably today think they are not able to, because the problem is so big and close that they are not able to look at themselves, look at the way ahead. Okay. Any other thoughts?
Sharon's got her hand up.
Oh,
yeah. Just a quick comment. I read gracefully assume, and I really love the way you put that, because I think in traditional counseling, there are also presuppositions that people are broken, that people are resisting, all kinds of cynical things. And I really like the way you frame that as a graceful presupposition. And I think it links with not just what they presuppose about themselves, but what other people think about them. I just really like that phrasing.
Yep, absolutely, and I'll be covering that as we go down. Yes, but yes, that is. I learned that word graceful judgment from Dr. Adam Frober. So I think it kind of encapsulates what judgment should be all about, right? As human beings, we have the tendency to judge. I mean, that's inseparable from us as a what you call species. But if we have to judge, then might as well judge people by the best days, by their best version, right? And presuppose that they have had a good past, a successful past, and they can recreate that successful past in the present and in the future, right? So this slide again, it's about the types of presupposition. Again, it is, the source is obviously Adam once did a video on what presuppositions are, and so I just kind of condensed it into this slide. So directing is about, again, any variation of the best hopes is where we are yet to have the language from the client. So we are asking a direct question as to what your best hopes are. How do you know that this session would be, this conversation would be of help to you? What would you notice as you go out of this office? What would tell you that the session was good? We are presupposing that the session would be helpful for the client, that they came in with something, came in wanting a change, a transformation, of whether it's small, big, however they want to measure it, right? And we are asking a direct question that presupposes their best hopes. So redirecting, again, continuous or conditional, it all is intertwined into the conversation that we then have, right? We continue to have with the client, depending on their language. So it could be the instead, like recently I saw Anna Francis put out a video about the power of the word instead. One of them, again, one of my favorite words in an SF session too, because it completely turns around, or at least tries to turn around the conversation from a problem-focused, what do you call it, problem-focused line to a solution or outcome-focused line. So we ask the instead question. We take the language, client's language, wherein, because when we ask best hopes, as you would have seen many times, the clients don't have a ready answer to that best hopes, or like, how would you know this session was helpful? They come in, they answer with a problem statement. I don't want to be sad. I don't want to be defeated. I don't want to have problems, right? I've had this trauma in the past. It still nags me. I procrastinate. All these problems, we turn it around with that instead question, right? Again, so through the conversation, throughout the session, whether it's the difference question, whether it's the noticing question, whether we are bringing in others, the other significant others in the client's life into the conversation, we are presupposing. It could be continuous, it could be conditional, it could be a hypothesis, it could be an imaginary situation. But across the session, we are bringing in questions that presupposes, right, the clients want to have the desired outcome or the best hopes in their life, right? And as Elliot time and again puts it out, right? Okay, so just so most of you, many of you should know that I'm a student from the Elliot Connie Adam Frost School of Thought in SF. So you might see me talk a lot about them or what they have said. So pardon me if it doesn't like really sit with your sensibilities, but yeah, just keeping you, keeping you up, mentioned, what do you call, informed about that. So so we continue to use, Alan, you have your hand raised. Any question, thoughts there? You're on mute.
Coming into this, Vinay, you talk in the bottom there about the conditional, using the hypothetical situation. One of my questions about presupposition is actually the force with which we do it. Mm-hmm. And if we take the Elliot Connie position, it would be the question you've asked. So when the desired outcome is present, how will you notice it? Harry Coleman has posited that this may be a little bit presumptive in the presupposition, that perhaps we need to almost ask permission to presuppose in that way. So rather than saying when it is present, which doesn't give the client any wiggle room at all, but to ask something like, well, suppose it was to be present, how will you notice it? And you can take a step further back to someone like Evan George, who will be very, very differential, saying, look, I'd just like to ask you a question. Would it be all right if I ask you a question? I'm just wondering, when the desired outcome, if it was present, just wondering, how will you notice it? And so it's much more gentle. And I'm wondering what your thoughts are about how direct we could or should or might use our presuppositions.
Yeah, right. So interesting that you mentioned Evan George, because I would add a couple of words to what you just imitated, like a wee bit of your desired outcome being present in your, a little being as. So I think, yes, I mean, I think it is important to gauge where your client is, where our client is, how much they can take. And I think the presuppose. Now, I'm also of the view that when the client has expressed their best hopes, in many cases with a lot of difficulty because they have not thought about it, they do not come in to the session in a position to think about their best hopes. They are wanting to pour out their problems. So with much difficulty, they get to their best hopes, and with a lot of questions before we ask about the presence, right? They kind of cement their best hopes while it can always expand. I believe they would then be able to slowly answer about how life would look like when the desired outcome is present. Yes, Miriam.
So full disclosure before I say anything, Harry is my dad. But yes, I was just thinking that perhaps it's also a bit of a matter of cultural sort of context, how direct we are with our language, how much force we as experts in the conversations will use. So maybe that's also a factor that plays into these obviously different people and their different personalities, but just in what's acceptable in different cultures.
Right. Okay. So yeah, I think the presumption of the desired outcome being present, and the way we put it out, obviously, and no matter what the modality is, the tone, the empathy in our questions, right? Probably, I mean, if we asked Elliot, he would say body language doesn't matter, but I believe it does matter, especially if you are in person, whether you lean forward or you sit back, mirroring the client. I think those are basics. We stick to the basics, stick to the client's demeanor, if you will, right? And then ask the question based on the desired outcome or the best hope that the client has given us. I believe it still wouldn't be so forceful. Yes, we could mellow down the way we ask it, or take it slow, as we even slow down the pace at which we ask our question. Again, I think it changes from therapist to therapist and the client they have in the room. But I think it's still important to presume that the desired outcome will one day be present in their life. And when it is present, then understand how they would know it, right? How they would know that it is present, what kind of difference it would make, how they would start to notice. So I think that's my take, Alan, as to how forcefully or how mellowed down. Obviously, forceful is too harsher word to use, but how mellowed down or at what pace we take the session and presume that it is present. So this slide is again just put out some presuppositional questions and presuppositional questions. And actually, thanks to Alan, who gave me the idea for this slide when I made this originally a year and a half back for the conference that I was presenting the first time. So he had actually shared some ideas and I just put it together. But we I mean, the difference you would say, from a non-presuppositional to a presuppositional presumptive question is like, what brings you here today? So it kind of opens the door for problem talk. But in SF, which means we are presupposing that there is a problem there. Here while we might know that there is a problem, obviously that's why they are coming in, we presuppose that they also have a best hopes, or they have a way for change. They want a change, right? Now, again, I'm not a big fan of scaling, doing the scales, but I'm guessing there are people here who like to do the scaling, and we all have our own ways of scaling. So even on a scale, right? Instead of presupposing that there's been a problem and there's an intensity or severity to that problem, we presuppose that the desired outcome is already present. Even during the time from making an appointment to visiting the clinician, there's a period where we presuppose that change is already happening, or something good is already happening, or their desired outcome is already present, even if it is in small quantity. And so we are asking, hey, on a scale of 1 to 10, or there are people who use 0, but I like 1 to 10, where do you think your desired outcome is? So we are presupposing that the desired outcome is already present. It could be a 2, it could be a 3. And then again, we are asking, like, what makes it at a 3 and not at a 2 or a 1 or a 0, right? Yes, Alan.
I think also that there are presuppositions in problem-focused counselling, as some of your questions on the left are. You know, they presuppose things. We're just presupposing a mathematically positive and more desirable position. So, for example, when was the last time you had the problem occur presupposes there's a last time the problem occurred.
Yes.
Whereas you're saying, actually, we're presupposing there was a time when the last outcome, the desired outcome, was present. Mm-hmm. So it's a solution focused towards a desired outcome presupposition, right, as opposed to a presupposition that is the problem or undermines the client rather than puts them back in that space of strength.
Yes. In fact, I think it was you, Alan, mentioned this some time back, that there is even a difference between if and when, right? I mean, it is one way of asking if your desired outcome was present. And then it is also a different way of asking when your outcome is the desired outcome, or your best hopes, or what you want is present, which means we are already presupposing that it will one day be present. We are not saying if, which also presupposes that it might never, but we are saying when.
I think also the use of tense, future tense, and the use of words like when will this happen. So if this was to happen, what will you notice presupposes that we don't know whether it's going to happen, but we sort of think it will, but that when it does, you are going to notice this. So we presuppose that the client will notice.
Yes.
And so we know you're going to notice. So tell us what you might know, or tell me what you might notice.
Right. And our modality is a questions-based modality. Now, in the early days when I was introduced to SF, I've heard Elliot say that solution focus itself is a misnomer. Ideally, it should be outcome-focused therapy, not necessarily solution-focused therapy. I've heard him say this. So, because there's always the difference between goal and an outcome. So, and the other way of presupposing, especially with questions, is not to push down a strength that the client has or we presume, but ask them how they gained, how they developed that strength, how they develop that resource, right? So instead of saying, oh, in fact, I just saw that in that INSU video with that boy who wanted to take his life the previous day. She said that, hey, you seem to be a smart man because you picked math and algebra too. But probably today we have evolved and we would say, how come, I mean, what tells you, or how do you know that who else has said that you are a smart person, you are a smart guy, that you could pick math in school, and where else have you seen that you are smart enough to handle situations? Or who else has said that you are a smart guy who could handle situations? So we turn it around into a question instead of just putting it out for and then for the client to say, oh, no, I don't think I'm smart, because that's human tendency. We play down our strengths, but when we ask it as a question with enough evidence to back it, because we have already had a conversation, 10, 15 minutes of conversation, and then we ask this question, I think that puts things into perspective for the client to see that, oh yeah, I have done it. Oh yeah, I've come across this challenge. I've gotten past these challenges in my life, and I could do it again. Yes, Miriam.
I was just thinking about that example, that another way of making the client say so asking them something like, so you'd take Algebra 1 and Algebra 2, and these are your favorite subjects. What does that tell you about yourself?
Mm-hmm.
So getting the client to say, well, I guess I'm pretty good at maths, and I guess I have an easy time learning, and that it becomes so much more powerful when it comes from the client. And we're presupposing that it does tell them something about themselves, which, can't be anything really other than positive, or, strength-based.
Yep. Yes.
I'll go further and say, I can't do algebra. How is it that you're able to do algebra? I mean, that's hard. Well, teach me so that when I get an X and somebody says find X, I don't just go, oh, there it is on the page. To be able to put the client in an expert position and take yourself out of the power position is really useful.
Right. So I think the benefit, and the next slide is going to be about the co-constructing of the conversation with the clients, right? And looks like we are well within time. So I think it gives the benefit from a therapist standpoint and from a client standpoint is that it gives us the leeway, right? It gives us the opportunity to talk to gracefully judge clients, right? So pardon me if I sometimes feel that we are beating around the bush because we are talking about the same thing within SF, because SF is that kind of a modality. I mean, it's all about best hopes, difference, resource, noticing, repeat. So, I mean, pardon me if I'm like kind of repeating myself, but I think we also notice in sessions that every time we ask a question, like the difference question, what difference would something make? And we keep repeating the question because we are repeating it with the previous language that the client gave us. So it kind of, avoids the nature of the repetitive nature. So assumption again is that the client knows what they want. Probably they are hesitant to articulate, or they do not know how to articulate, but they still know what they want. They have some idea as to what they want. They anyway are the experts of their life. They know the problem that they have, which means even if the solution, the outcome they are looking for is not directly connected or is like inversely proportionate to the problem they're coming in with, at some level, they know what they want. And that is the presumption. That's the graceful judgment that we as clinicians or therapists would always have, right? And that's the benefit of presupposing, right? Whether it is to know that that the client has had a successful past, or they continue to use their strength in the present, or they would continue to use it in the future. So I kind of typically take my own example, right? I'm a master procrastinator. I mean, you could give me, if there were an Olympics for procrastinators, I think I would win the silver. I don't want the gold. But today, I mean, I had to put this, I had already put this presentation together. I had to make some changes, kind of made those changes. And I got out of my procrastination because it drove me to something. This is a global conference. For me, it is imperative that I make some sort of mark, right? Put myself out there. So I had no choice. I had no choice but not to procrastinate, get on with it, make the necessary changes, and come present, sit here and present, right? It's like 5:40 early in the morning. Just finish my work. As I said, I'm a full-time salesperson. So just finish my work, continued I stayed back in office, right, for this presentation. So there is always a successful past. So it always gives me as a person pleasure if someone were to ask, how did you do that? Right? How did you get past that urge or that tendency to procrastinate and do this presentation? Be present in the conference and do this presentation for probably an hour. And it as human beings, right, it always gives us, while we like to downplay our strengths, it also we also like being complimented, congratulated, right? We like being recognized. So we are presupposing that this person has something in him that is getting him to do things though he procrastinates. And procrastination is just one presenting problem. A client could come in with a variety or a range of problems, and yet we presume, right? Gracefully presume that the client has the strength, resources, the ability to get past, though it might still be there in their life, and every day they take that extra step to get past those problems and challenges, to do what they want, to achieve what they want, to make those changes a reality in their life. And as clinicians, we have seen that we use clients' language, we create their reality with their own language, right? By presupposing that they have what it takes, right? And one of the things that I really like in SF is the pulling in of other significant others. Like it could be the parents, the spouse, the kids, friends, colleagues, anyone. It could even be pets and non-living objects. But I like this example, like typically asking a client that what would be different? What would your car or your cycle or scooter notice about you when the desired outcome is present in your life? Because the way we drive is different when we are riddled and confused versus when what we want or the change we are looking for is present in our life, even in small quantity. And it's always it's exciting in sessions to elicit that description, right, as to how the client would drive differently, cook differently, eat differently, sleep differently when their desired outcome is present. And that's possible only when we as clinicians really believe and presuppose that the client is able to do it. They presuppose that the desired outcome is and will be present in the client's life at some point in time, more than the problem. Or even if the problem is there, they are able to get past it. Okay. So again, we have seen this. So like the question, we always say this, right? In SF, we are not coming together with the client to develop an intervention. The session itself, the questions in itself is the intervention. And the objective is for the client to listen to themselves, talk about what they have achieved, what they can achieve, and how they know that they have it in them to achieve the changes that they want, that they are looking for, right? I mean, and we leave it to the client to decide the intensity of the change, right? The depth of the change. For someone who is anorexic, right, and cannot eat and wants to get out of it, even one slice of a bread is a big step for them because they are not eating. So to to even have half a slice of bread or one slice of bread is a win for them on a daily basis. It's a struggle on daily basis. If they're able to eat something, even if in small quantity, it's a win for them. For us, so it is our job to presuppose that they are able to eat something, and then ask questions about what difference would it make to them, or eating healthy. I typically like this example about eating healthy, and I'm typically asked these questions in workshops like, how do we know whether the client is lying or not? And I tell them that we presuppose that they are telling the truth because that is their version of truth. Whatever they want is their version of truth, and we are no one to judge it and ask whether or confront or ask whether they are lying. But we rather ask, okay, what difference would that make to you? What difference would eating healthy food make to you? The client might have had a burger in the morning and tell us that they had a salad in the morning, but that's the version of truth, or that's the version of truth they want to live. And they probably failed today, but it's not for us to judge. They are talking about a future that they would like to live, and probably they are visualizing it right from today. So for us, it as clinicians, it becomes important to ask the difference that salad made to them. And they might weave a story, a description, a picture that they might start living from tomorrow. Right? Yes, Miriam, I think I'm almost at the end of my presentation.
Sorry. Yes. Sorry, I apologize.
Oh, no, I'm done. So yeah, now I'm really open. The floor is now really open to questions and discussions. We still, I think, have 10 minutes or 15 minutes.
Yes. It was just a thought around what you were saying about whether the client is telling the truth or not. And I guess just a couple of thoughts around that. I think I agree with you. It's not it's not something that in the solution focused practice we think about, right? Because we don't. Well, obviously, we have a different kind of worldview. We don't think that there necessarily is a truth to be discovered, or that we are constantly co-constructing it. So I guess what's more important, and what I will ask clients when I get a sense that they're maybe blabbering on, or they're saying things that doesn't necessarily make sense, or that sometimes you'll find that maybe they are saying things that they think that we want to hear, or that mum wants to hear, or so on. And I think, I guess, what I'll ask more is, what would be a significant change? Like, asking them about what is a significant change, and is this important, that what we're talking about, and why is it important? So trying to, and if it isn't, what is important to talk about? So trying to more steer the conversation towards that. What does the client see as something that is worthwhile talking about? I don't know if that makes sense, but just some thoughts around what you were saying.
And if I jump in there, Miriam, and how would it be important as well? Not just what would be important and why, but actually how will it be important? What difference will it make? And it's all presuppositional with your question there.
Right. And
we're assuming it's important. There must be a how. And so how will it be important?
Yes. And to bust the myth that SF does not deal with the past, we also go into the past and ask, like, how did you know that this was important to you? Where did you learn that, or at what point in life did you learn that honesty, integrity was important to you? Right? Who did you learn it from? In fact, a month back, I had a client. We were talking, and she was talking about her strengths and all. And and this was the second session I was having with her, and I asked her, like, where did you learn that leaving a legacy was important to you? And she said, I think I learned that from my mom. Because her mom had a tough life, and yet she had some ideals, values in life, and that is what my client imbibed, and that is where she learned that leaving a legacy. living a life that leaves a mark was important to her. So, and that's one of the good examples of saying that SF does touch upon the past, just that it doesn't touch on the problems. It touches upon how did you get past, how did you march on despite the problems you had in life, right? Sometime back, I had a client, a girl who had just finished her MBBS, what we do as the undergrad for doctors here in India. So she finished her undergrad and she became a doctor after her house surgency, and she was preparing for her master's. Today she's a pediatrician. So she had come in for a session because she had some, like, as they call it, the unfinished business, or she had some childhood trauma that she was still working with. And right about when there was like 10 minutes left in the session, I asked her, like, how did you know that you were strong enough, despite the childhood trauma and sibling problems, challenges that you had? How did you know that you were strong enough that you could become a doctor in life? And can you guess what she told me? She was blank for the next 10 minutes till the session was over. I mean, for the next 10 minutes, I didn't have an answer. I couldn't ask another question because I was waiting for an answer, and she didn't know. She was blank. She didn't even say, I don't know. She was just blank. And at the end of 10 minutes, I had to tell her that, okay, well, we are at the end of our session. You can think about that question and probably let me know the next time. So today she's moved on. She's finished her master's. She's a pediatrician. She's, I think, a practicing pediatrician. So I think it's important to ask those, and as we all know, our job is not to make the client's life easy in sessions by asking easy questions, but asking the meaningful questions, presupposing that they will ultimately find the answers to those questions, even if not in the session, but outside the session too. So, yeah. Okay. We still have 9 months. I hope I didn't bore you guys to death. So anyway.
Stop apologizing, good sir. You're going well.
See, I don't take compliments easily. I mean, I don't know how to take compliments. I'm 41 and I don't know how to take compliments. I'm still learning that trick. I mean, that art of taking
Wait till you're in your 50s.
So, yeah. Any other thoughts, questions?
Vinay, how has your own relationship with presuppositional questions developed over time?
Well, I think you mean personally, or my presuppositional
Well, in your profession, in your work with clients, or in sales for that matter. I mean, you've been working with us now. What are you noticing about the way you're using presuppositional questions now, particularly given all the work you've done with them?
Right. I think, and this is still work in progress, Alan, but one area that I try to use presupposing questions are in my sales job, in my IT sales job. So I have a full-time IT sales job, and we talk to clients on a daily basis. We provide them with solutions, right? But it is also important for us to presuppose that the solution we provide will add value to their operations, to our clients' operations, right? They have a problem, and we have a solution that can solve their problem. And we have to presuppose in sales that a client is looking for something for some reason because they believe it will change the way they do business, or it will change the way it will impact their employees. It will change the way it will impact the bottom line, right? Their profitability, their productivity, whatever it is. So that's another area where I kind of consciously try to presuppose that the client is trying to solve a problem and we have a solution, and I also presuppose that we are best placed to solve their problems with our solution, right? It is important for me to presuppose that we are one of the best solution providers in the market that will solve our clients' problems, and not just in one industry, but across five, six industries that we work in. And so that is one area. Now, on a personal note, yes, again, it's still work in progress. Sometimes I'm horrifically bad at presupposing strengths because I'm still human. And in fact, my colleague, who is also a good friend, just told me that you got to take your own advice. I mean, you seem to use presuppositions with your clients, with everyone around, but you've got to presuppose it for yourself. That's important, right? So, I mean, and yeah, that's a challenge. I mean, I still need someone to give me a kick and say, hey, you're doing fine, just as you just did. So yeah, that's where I am, Alan.
And what do you notice about the way, since you've been more deliberate about this in your workplace, what have you noticed about how your clients have responded that suggests actually the power of the presuppositional question?
I think, again, for them as a client, it again is to at least to begin with, it is a challenge for them to like notice the changes that might happen, the benefit that they might get, the value that the solution might add, right? Because they are saturated in a problem, they are used to working a certain way. We are in a space I sell AI solutions, so we are in a space that is quite disruptive, right? Though it is not too old, it's not too new, it's still in its nascent stages. So it's disruptive to them. It's difficult for them to articulate or even imagine how this might change the business, the way they do their job, right? So it takes a lot of pushing and prodding from our side too, to like give them that picture as to how the solution might help them, or how it might make their people's life better. Right? I typically tell my clients, because I'm talking to decision makers, I typically tell them, I mean, in sales, we need to explain it, then ask questions. I typically tell leaders that the solution will give you the opportunity to redirect and repurpose your people to do more meaningful activities, more value-added activities than the mundane chores that they might be doing today on a daily basis. That does not necessarily need their wisdom and knowledge and experience that they have gained in their professional life, which means the outcome that the picture that we are drawing for the client is your people can go back home happy, right? They can go back home more satisfied, fulfilled, while you still are taking care of your processes, your business challenges. So I think in sales, it's not always about asking questions and getting them to draw the picture for themselves, but it sometimes needs us as a salesperson to draw the picture for them and make them kind of visualize how life would be when the solution is in place.
A great illustration. I love the pulling that back in, and yeah, this is what it could look like, and inviting them to see a picture that they couldn't have seen otherwise. Very, very solution focused.
But it's still work in progress. Yeah, there are times
Thank you.
There are still times when pressure gets to salespeople, as it is in the sales arena, and we forget everything else and we just are hell bent on selling it. So that happens. Any questions, thoughts? I'm guessing, Beverly, you're still there. Am I good to go for the Americas? You want me to make changes? You're still on, you're on mute.
Yes, it's good to go, and you certainly don't need to apologizing for your work.
Okay, I'll make that correction in the Americas, and I have 90 minutes there. So now I have to think of a strategy to prolong it for 90 minutes. Probably get people into work, what do you call breakout rooms.
Yeah, no, it gives people lots to think about, Vinay. So I think you've done a really good job.
Yeah, sure. Now I need to learn how to get into breakout rooms. Never done that. Okay. Great. I think we are right on the hour. So if we don't have any other questions, thoughts, so thank you all for joining me, listening to me patiently, and interacting. So this is where you could follow me. I'm on Insta. My practice is primarily today online, though I do meet clients whenever they want to. So yeah, please feel free to connect with me.
Cheers,
or
Vinay.
email or Insta. Yeah. Thank you and take care.